video, I'm going to show you how to take one of my favorite designs from Tereza, these lovely long oval earrings here, and I'm going to take these earrings here and just modify her design slightly to accommodate a slightly smaller sized oval. So go ahead and grab your materials. They're going to be listed down below if you could just click on Show More. Gather all your materials and then we'll begin. We're going to start this earring with a bezel that we're going to create around our long oval. And the bezel is actually going to be made with a right angle weave pattern. So if you're already familiar with right angle weave, this will be pretty easy for you. We're going to start that right angle weave, and then we're going to bring in the bezel so that it does create a nice bezel and overlaps on our crystal. And then we'll do some embellishment on the top and the bottom. So one reason why I am redoing this pattern is because sometimes you get crystals that are slightly larger or slightly smaller, and so you need to know how to change a pattern to fit a slightly different size crystal. The crystals that I have here in this mystic color, they're slightly smaller than the crystals that she was originally working with. So all I'm going to do here is take her original pattern and shrink it down a little bit. So in this video, I'm just taking her original pattern and making it a little bit smaller to fit a slightly different size crystal. So to start out here, we're going to start by creating that right angle weave bezel. You're going to have two different colors of 11-ohs. And they're going to be, for me, it's going to be this dark blue purple and then this bright galvanized purple. This is the galvanized eggplant. So the first color here that I'm going to use is my A color, and that's going to be what's forming that right angle weave. Pick up a stop bead, and I'm going to go ahead and just pass through that bead again, and just allowing that bead to sit towards the end of my thread. Pick up 3 more of my A colored 11-oh here, and this is going to be the beginning of my right angle weave. So to do that, to begin the right angle weave, I'm just taking my needle and just running up through all those 4 beads again. And once I've gone through all 4 of those beads again, I'm going to pass through the first bead. That's my stop bead, and that will help pull all that thread together and pull everything into a nice circle. So I've got a nice little circle of beads, although with 4 little beads here, it really looks more like a little square or a diamond. Now I'm going to pass up through one of my beads here on the side. With a right angle weave, you're always going to be working with 4 sides. So you've got the top and the bottom and the right and the left. So just just remember that you want to keep your beads oriented in that sense. You want to always be thinking of them as your top and your bottom and your right and your left beads. So coming out, so I'm gonna position it this way, because I'm going to work sort of along the bottom here. I'm going to pick up one of my alternate colors, my B colorway, for that 11-oh seed bead. And this is going to sit along the bottom. So the B color seed bead is always going to be sitting between my bottom beads in that right angle weave. I'm going to pick up 3 more of my A color seed bead. And if you're familiar with right angle weave, you'll probably already kind of know what you're going to do here. I'm going to pass through, let me orient this correctly here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass through my right bead, and then I'm going to continue. I'm going to pass over my alternating color bead, so I'm going to completely ignore that one. I'm going to go through my right bead, and then I'm going to go through the first of the 3 beads that I picked up here in my A color. So for me, I've actually found that holding it this way is the easiest for me. I'm going to pass through that bead here on the right, skip over the bead that is an alternating color, and then just go through the bead directly after it. And as I pull that and pull tight, I'll have another right angle weave section formed with my alternating color there right where it should be. Your first couple stitches are going to look kind of funny, but we're going to keep going here and it'll look better. So we're going to pick up one of our alternating or B color, 3 of our A color, let them fall all the way down here. I'm going to pass through that right angle weave bead on the end, skip over the alternating color, and go through the next bead. And as I pull that tight, you'll see another right angle weave section form, and then alternating color sitting there along the edge there. Again, just pick up one of the alternating and 3 of that right angle weave color. We're going to go through that right angle weave bead sticking out the top and through, skip over the alternating color and through the next bead, that's that right angle weave color. And give it a nice pull all your beads down, pull that thread tight. And now as I do this, as long as you're pulling tight as you go and you don't have a lot of threads slack in your thread here, you'll see that now what's happening is I have a right angle weave section here, 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 and on the bottom row I've got my alternating color sitting right in between those bottom beads there. And they're sitting slightly up, or in this case kind of slightly down, but they're sitting slightly off from the right angle weave section. And that's exactly what we want, because that's going to set us up for a peyote row. So I'm going to continue until I have a total of 22 of my right angle weave sections. I'm actually going to stop at my 21st right angle weave section and connect my 21st and my first section, and that'll create the final or 22nd section. So for those of you who have done things in the round before or have made bezels, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So continue on working like this until you have 21 sections, until your length here, your flat length is about 21. And then we're going to create that 22nd by connecting our first and our last section. I've now completed a length of right angle weave that is 21 sections long. And an easy way to tell that you have 21 sections is that if you have 21 of the alternating color seed bead, you have 21 sections. I'm now going to take my last right angle weave section here and connect it to the right angle weave section here. I'm going to do that by picking up one of my alternating or my B color and one of my A color. I'm going to take this and connect it to the other side here, the other side of my length of right angle weave. And I'm going to go up through the very last bead in that right angle weave, pick up one of my, pick up another right angle weave color seed bead, and go down through the left and go through the bottom bead of that section. What we're adding here is the top, and don't let that tail thread get you too get you too disoriented. And now once you have a bottom, top, right, and left, go ahead and go around that again just to reinforce that and to give yourself a little bit more structure there and a little bit, make it a little bit stronger. It'll pull things together and it'll be easier for you to see that section come together. So now the only other thing I need to do here is add one of my alternating colors in the gap here. So just going between two of the bottom seed beads here where I did not have one of these alternating colors and adding that in there. So at this point, the bezel, the right angle weave portion of the bezel is complete. After finishing the connection of your bezel, so you have one nice continuous circle or bezel here, we're going to just test this out with our crystal and just make sure that that bezel looks like it's going to be just the right size. At this point, although you've done some work, you could always undo that end connection, add another row or so in there if you need to. So I always like to just make sure that that is the right connection or that is the right size. And this looks pretty perfect, so I'm going to keep going. At this point, we are ready to start working with our 15 O's. So I've got some 15 O's out here. You're going to take your needle and thread and just go out one of my B color seed beads. And then you're going to start picking up one 15 O and add that in between each one of your 11 O's in that alternating color. So I'm picking up one 15 O and passing through the next 11 O in that B color. And all this is just a peyote stitch to go around the entire bezel and to start bringing that bezel in so it starts creating that portion of the bezel where you're going to be bringing your beads over the crystal. And that's what's going to help hold that crystal in. So just do a simple little peyote stitch all the way around here, passing through one of the B color seed beads, picking up a 15 O, and passing through the next B color seed bead. And once I get all the way around, I should be in position to start working on the back side. And we want to make sure though that whatever we add here to the front section will actually cover our crystal. You can see here I have my B color seed bead and then I have just one row in the peyote stitch here of my 15 O's. If you feel that that's not going to actually hold your crystal in, go ahead and do a second row of peyote stitch, picking up a 15 O between the 15 O's now in this next row. I didn't do it on this one, but if you have to, feel free to do that. You just want to make sure that you're creating a bezel that is going to hold your crystal. So go ahead and continue here, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this side of the bezel, and then we will talk about the back. We're now going to start working on the back side of the bezel. So the front side will look something like this, and you can see that's what mine looks like right now. The back side is going to have more seed beads. It's going to have 3 rows of peyote stitch in the 15 O's. So to get to the back side, I'm coming out of one of my seed beads here along the front, and I'm just going to pass through whichever seed beads I'm next to, working my way to the back. So just kind of work your way through that right angle weave there, and then you want to be coming out of one of these seed beads that is all the way on the very edge there, in position to do a peyote stitch. We're going to just do a simple peyote stitch with our 15 O's, so you're just picking up one 15 O and passing through the next 11, and one 15 O passing through the next 11. So we're going to do this the whole way around, and we're going to do this twice. So we're going to go through once, and then you're going to step up To step up, you're just going to pass through the 15-0, the first 15-0, and then continue doing your peyote stitch. So go ahead and do 2 rows of peyote stitch, and then the third row is actually where we're going to start seeing that the oval take shape. You also want to remember to put your crystal here in your bezel. You can put it in now, or you can put it in after the first row of peyote. If you want to put it in now, you'll just have to kind of hold it in place. I would recommend doing 1 row of peyote, then putting it in your crystal. That should work well for you and give you a little bit more structure at that point to hold the crystal in. So continue with that first row of peyote, add your crystal, and move on to the second row of peyote. I finished my first row of peyote, and you can see that the bezel is starting to kind of take the shape of my crystal, but I haven't done anything yet to form it into that oval shape yet, but it's starting to look like it's going to be a nice good fit here. I did put the crystal in right before I did my last row, or I added my last 15, but it's very easy to take in and out. There's really nothing holding it in at this point. I'm going to hold it in here though, because I want to, for my next pass around here with the peyote, my next row, I do want to make sure that I'm holding it and keeping these beads sort of molded to my crystal. And you can see it is kind of tough to keep it in there. So to step up, if you're not familiar with that, I'm coming out of my 11-0 here, which is the last bead that I passed through. And all I'm going to do is go through the 15-0, which should be the first 15-0 that I picked up, or that I added in my last row. That should be the first 15-0. And I'm now going to just start with a regular peyote stitch, picking up a 15, and now on this row I'm going through the next 15. We're going to continue here until we go all the way around, and we're back at the front here, or back at the beginning. And that should now have our bezel a little bit tighter at that point. And then we're going to start with our third row, which will really hold everything together a little bit better and start to form that oval shape. After finishing the second row of peyote, I'm going to start my third row of peyote. At the top of the crystal here, at one of the corners or bends here in the crystal at the top, we're going to actually not add one 15-0 to do the peyote stitch. What we're going to do is just go through 2 of the 15-0s. So I'm coming out of one 15-0 and I'm going through the second 15-0. And what I'm doing is just bringing those 2 together, so I'm not adding a 15-0 like I normally would in a peyote stitch. I'm just going through the 2 beads to bring them together and to cinch those closer together, so that will form a corner or a bend in the peyote. Now at this point here, I'm going to continue along the side with a regular peyote stitch. So picking up one 15-0 and going through the next. And I'm going to continue this down one side of my crystal until I get to the other end of the bezel. Once I get down to this end of the bezel, I'll do the same thing. And here I am just going down through, just adding a 15-0 here in between my 15-0s from the previous row. And you can see as I work with this, it'll get a little bit thicker, and it also will pull the whole bezel a little bit tighter. And I need a couple more 15s here. So now I am going through my last 15-0 here on the side until I start getting to the point where it makes that sharp curve. So the next 2 15-0s, which I can go pick up one more 15-0 here. I still have a little bit left on the side there. And I'm going to now skip a 15-0. So I'm skipping the step of adding on a 15-0, and I'm just going through the next 15-0. So you can see that what that does is it helps to create a sharper turn in your peyote stitch. So I'll continue up the side here until I've finished adding all of my 15-0s for the peyote stitch, and then we'll move on to some of the embellishment. Once you're done with the bezel on the back side, you're going to take your needle and thread and just follow your thread path here until you're coming out of one of the center seed beads here in that right angle weave. So it's going to be one of those beads that's sitting to the right or the left. And you want to go to one bead to the right or the left of that center bead. So if you take a look here at the very center of your crystal at the top, you'll have one of your seed beads here. And you're going to come out of the seed bead directly next to it. Coming out of that seed bead, I have my little sample here too, so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. I am picking up one of my 11-0s, and then I'm going to pick up one of my 15-0s. I'm using the this eggplant color, the bee color of my seed bead, but as long as you're consistent on both earrings, you can pick up whichever color you want. And now here I'm going to pick up one of my crystals, one of my 4mm crystals. So I've taken those out. And I'm going to pick up another 15-0 and 11-0 seed bead. I'm going to skip that center 11-0, and I'm going to go to the one directly next to it and pass through that bead. I'm going to pick up another 11-0 and another 15-0, pass through my round crystal again, a 15-0 and another 11-0, and pass through the first 11-0 where I first started this step. And I'm just coming at it through the other direction so that I've got some seed beads kind of go into the back of that seed bead and come into the front. So on each side of my crystal here, I have my seed beads sitting on either side, front and back. Pass back up through the 11 and 15-0 and through the crystal. So now at this point, you can either add the ear wire in the way that we have done it here, and this is how Tereza originally did it in her video, or you can use a wire guard. I'm going to do it the way that she originally did it in the video, the first video, so you guys can see that version. We're going to pick up 3 15-0s and one of our 11-0s, and then another 3 15-0s. Go back through your crystal and up through the 3 15-0s and through the center 11-0. Now you're going to have your ear wires handy. You can also use a wire guard here if you'd like, but you can also do what Tereza did in the video and just directly attach to your ear wire. I'm going to pick up 2 15-0s and just go through my ear wire and pick up another 2 15-0s and pull all of that close to your project and go back through that center 11-0 from the other side. So you're taking all of your beads and your ear wire here and looping around. And we're going to go through this again and reinforce it. So we're going through the 2 15-0s on the side of the ear wire, through the ear wire itself, down through the other 2 15-0s on the other side, pull tight, go through the 11-0, and down through the 15-0s on the other side. And don't catch your thread on your ear wire here. Go through the crystal. And go through either the front or the back set of seed beads here, the 15 and the 11-0. It doesn't really matter which one you go through. We're going to now pass through the 11-0 part of that right angle weave that's in the center here. So if you remember at the beginning we talked about we have a top and a bottom and a right and a left in our right angle weave. So you want to go through one of those beads that's a right or a left. We're now going to start embellishing with our 4mm crystals on the side. So coming out of that same seed bead, we're going to pick up one 11-0 and one 15-0. I need some more 15-0s here. And then a crystal. We're going to then pick up a 15 and an 11-0. And if you see along the side here, we're going to skip over the next 11-0. That's that right or left, that they're all sitting, in the same direction. So we're coming out of one 11-0, we're skipping over one, and then going through the next. And the way that she's done this to embellish it, you can see my thread here in the first 11-0 is coming out the back. And I want to go through in the same direction, so I'm essentially doing another little loop, or doing like another little looping action. So when you pull this tight, you'll see that that will actually cause the side embellishment here to twist a little bit. So it starts by coming out the back of one 11-0, and then it goes in through the front of the other 11-0. And we're going to repeat this. We're going to pick up an 11-0 and a 15-0, our 4mm crystal, and a 15-0 here off the page there, off my work surface, and an 11-0. And I'm going to skip over one of my 11-0s here in the bezel and go down through the next. I'm getting to the point here where I'm going to need to add some more thread. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more thread here. And once I've got my thread added, I'm going to continue down the side here, adding 2 more crystals. In the original video, she's got 5 crystals because she has a slightly longer bezel, so she can fit 5 crystals on the side. We're going to fit 4, so do this 2 more times, and then we will talk about this beautiful little embellishment she has down at the bottom. So I've added some thread here, and I've continued by adding 2 more of my crystals along the side here. So I want to go to the very end here of my crystal, to the other side, to the other point here, and I want to build the star embellishment here that I have. So to do that, I want to make sure that my crystal is straight in the bezel, and then I'm going to just look at the very end here at the corner, and I want to find the seed beads here, the 2 seed beads that are, again, those center seed beads, so like those right and the left in the right angle weave, that are directly opposite the crystal here that I have on top. So I want my embellishment that I built off the bottom to be directly below and in line with my crystal and my ear wire. I'm going to take my needle and thread and just work down through my right angle weave here until I get to the first of those seed beads. And I'm going to basically repeat the same steps that I used to add my crystal at the top here. I'm going to pick up one of my 8-0s and one of my 15s, another crystal, and then a 15 and an 8-0. Oops, and I might have added a little too much thread. Go through the 11-0 sitting next to the 8-0 that I'm coming out of, and then pick up another 11-0 and a 15, go through the crystal, and now on this other side here I'm going to pick up another 15 and 11-0, and in the same fashion that we did on the other end here, I'm just going to go back through the 11-0 from the opposite side. So now I've got a 4mm crystal here at the bottom and at the top. Pass through my 11-0 and my 15 towards my crystal and go through that crystal. I'm going to pick up an additional 4 of my crystals here, and this is going to form the base of my flower. So here's 3, so that's 4, and I need 1 more. So once I've got this, these 4 crystals on, I'm going to go back through the crystal that I added directly to the bezel, and I'm going to go through these beads again to reinforce and to just pull it all nice and tight together. I want to make sure I don't have any slack in my thread or any, so you want to make sure that I'm avoiding any sort of looseness in this design. Oops. And if your thread is getting tangled, it means that you probably have it too close together. You probably have the ends too close. So I'm just going to pull more of my thread through my needle so that I'm not working with the end of my thread so close to the project. So now at this point, we're going to go through this little flower again, picking up one 15-0 in between each one of the crystals. After adding a 15-0 in between all of my 4mm rounds, I'm going to start building up the flower design on my 4mm rounds here. Coming out of one of the crystals, I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and 5 of my 15-0s. Once I've got those on, I'm going to finish it with 1 more 11-0. And go back through the crystal, allowing those beads that we just added to sit on top and around that crystal. Pass through the 15-0 between your crystals and through the next crystal. Pick up 1 11-0 and 4 of my 15-0s. I'm then going to go back to this first section I created, and I'm going to go through the 15-0 and the 11-0 at the very end there and share those beads. Pass through the crystal and the 15-0 and move on to the next 4mm crystal. And we want to make sure that we're not passing through the 15-0 yet. We'll pass through the 15-0 later. Pick up 1 11-0 and 4 of our 15s. Go to the previous set of beads. Go through the 15-0 and the 11 at the end. And through our round and the 15-0. And forward here through the next round. And I'm going to do this one more time here. So now I'm going through picking up the 11, 4 of my 15-0s, through an 11, or sorry, through a 15 and the 11. Oops. And keep keep everything here on your work surface. And now I'm going to go through my 15-0, my crystal and my 15-0. And I'm going to go through the next crystal. So this should be the 5th crystal in my little flower. I'm going to go through the 11-0 and the 15-0 here from that first set of beads I added around my crystal, and pick up 3 more of my 15-0s. And then on the other side here, I'm going to go down through the 15-0 and the 11-0 at the end here and on on my last crystal here. So I'm just adding 3 seed beads here to finish off that little loop that's been going around all of my crystals. Pass through the crystal. And you can pass through a crystal or two just to pull tight. Typically, the more crystals you go through, or the more beads you go through, just the better grip you get when you want to pull tight. And I want to go through, just going through one more here. And now what I'm going to do is go up through the 11 and the 15-0 on the side, the ones that were shared with the other beads, or with the other crystals there, and pass through the next 2 15-0s. So what I'm doing is just coming out of that center of the 3 15-0s that are all sitting along the top here. Now at this point, I'm going to use one of my 11-0s, and if you use the contrasting 11-0, which is this 11-0 that we used in the right angle weave, it'll make a nice contrasting center there. I'm going to pick up one 11-0 and pass through the next 15-0 at the center sitting in the atop the crystal. Pick up another 11-0 and through the center bead in the next section. And here we go again until we've got 5 of our 11-0 seed beads connecting. And I have one more here to go. And I'm back at the beginning here where I started. So you can just push these beads to center and just make sure that all of those beads, all of those 5 beads ended up in the center there. Now I'm going to go through each one of those 11-0s and just connect them all together. So I just want my thread to go one after the other, just passing through all of those beads in the center, all of these 11-0s, and that will cinch that center up and pull them all nice and tight together so I don't have any gaps, and it'll really polish that design and keep everything sitting exactly where it should. So you can see that that is as far as I've come so far, so I actually only have a little bit left to do. Once you are past all, once you've gone past and through all of these 11-0s at least once or twice, we're going to then take our needle and thread and go down through a 15-0 and the 11. And we want to go through the 15-0 that is at the base here. So again, we're just keeping everything in line. We want our ear wire, and then our long oval crystal, and then we want our flower embellishment, and off the very bottom of our flower embellishment, we're going to add the very last little drop here. So everything is in line. I'm coming out of the 15-0 here between my crystals, And I'm just going to add a little embellishment with one of these crystals here. And you can do a different bead. You don't have to do the embellishment, but it really helps to just finish off the design. I think that Tereza did a fantastic job in the balance of this project. So what she did here, she just picked up one of the 11-Os in her A color, that right angle weave color, and then a 15-O and another 11-O, and then 3 of the 15-Os. Pick up your crystal, and we're going to pick up another 3 15-Os, and these 3 15-Os are just going to sit at the bottom of our crystal. So we're going to pass up through our crystal, and while we're passing up through our crystal, we can also pass up through 2 of the 15-Os sitting directly on top of it. And at this point, I like to just kind of give it a tug and just make sure they don't have any slack in my thread that I couldn't tell was there. Pick up another 15-O, another one of those 11-Os, and then another 15-O and 11-O. And we're going to pass through the same 15-O here at the top between our crystals and just go through from the other direction. And you can see that adds a very nice little way to cap that design all the way at the bottom. Gives it a nice tapering effect down here at the bottom. You can go ahead and reinforce this too if you would like by just running down through all the crystals and the beads and those 3 there at the bottom. Anytime you have a fringe or something that's really delicate and that might get a lot of, might get moved quite a bit, maybe like swaying on your ear quite a bit, it is nice to reinforce that just so that you don't end up with part of your ear wire or part of your earring fraying or coming off. So now we're going to work in our design up the side here until we get to where we're going to start the 4mm crystal embellishment on the side here again. And to do that, we're just going to move along in our project here following our thread path. And there is no necessarily right or wrong way to do this. You just want to follow your thread path, pass through the beads however you can to get to where you need to be. And I don't know why this crystal is giving me such a hard time. Oops. Yep, and just make sure that you don't, let's see, I got my thread tangled there. It can be very hard to see, but if it looks like part of your project, especially these little pieces here that are very easy to get kind of lassoed by your thread, if you see anything looking like it's moving as it shouldn't be, as if something is tugging it, take a moment and make sure that you are really undoing any sort of tangling, because you want to catch that as soon as it starts. Just going back through all these beads up on the other side here. And I'm going to take a note of where on the bottom, which bead on the bottom here, I stopped where my embellishment. So which bead on the side over here was the last 11-O that I went into, because that'll be the first one that I start with on the other side. Okay, so let me just take a note of that. So here, here's where I actually started my embellishment on the bottom, where I attached my first crystal to. And I'm going to go 1, 2 beads up from that along the side, and that's where I'm going to start adding my 4mm crystals. So here is my first bead. I'm going to skip this second bead to make sure that I start in the same place as I did on the other side. And I'm going to go through the next bead here. So now I am 1, 2, 3 beads up the side. And you can see if I just look at where my thread is coming out and where my crystal and my seed beads come in here, you can tell that I'm just about where I need to be. And now I'm going to just recreate this side here over on the other side. I'm going to start with an 11/0 and a 15, pick up one of my crystals, and then I'm going to pick up another 15 and an 11/0. And remember what we did on that other side there. I'm coming out of one of these seed beads, I'm skipping one, and I'm going through the next. And repeat this 3 more times until we get to the top. And at that point, we'll be done and we'll just need to tie off our thread. I've now finished doing my embellishment up the edge here, and all I have to do is just tie off my thread. So I'm going to take my thread and just kind of pass through all my beads here. I like to tie off in the back, so I'm going to continue until I get to the back side of the project here. And if you have some other tail thread, you can certainly tie it to that. If you don't, you can just find a bridge thread that you can tie around. So that's all I'm going to do here, is just find a bridge thread to tie around. And it can be a little difficult, it can be a little tight, but on the back, and if you're using something like a dark thread, if you're using dark beads, or a light thread if you're using very light beads, then a little bit of thread on the back here, a little bit of a knot, won't be that visible. I'm just going to burn this down. There we go. So this is Tereza's earrings with just a slight modification here. All I did was make the bezel itself a little bit shorter, so it fit a slightly smaller crystal, and we did remove one of the 4mm rounds on the side because our bezel, once we made it short, she originally had 5, so we did 4 because it just 5 wasn't going to fit. So there you go. I hope you really enjoyed this. These are fabulous earrings for really any time of day, but especially at nighttime. I hope you have a wonderful occasion coming up soon, or no occasion. You can make your own occasion and wear these out and just enjoy how beautiful and blingy they are.